After the goddess of misfortune left, Truman finally married, and she sniffed the photo like it was her perfume. She pulled out a frame containing the torn poster, ready for a night off with the old photos, and picked one that looked just like the misfortune goddess. She was keeping an eye on it all, feeling fine and heading back to work, but the radio in the car just up and quit, so she kicked it a couple of times. Strangely, the radio was narrating Truman's itinerary live, as if his every move was on a giant TV screen. Every time the radio switched frequency, people around changed attitudes. As soon as Truman parked, it switched to police broadcast, making her doubt everything. The passers-by made her feel like she was in a horror movie. She skipped work to wander around, squatting down like it was no big deal. Wherever she went, the crew's cameras were right behind her, and she realized she was basically the Star Scout. Center stage on the street, a bus barreled toward her like a beast, and seeing a green car, she confidently tried to block it. Taking advantage of the chaos, she darted into a different building, ignoring security, and the elevator opened to a giant maze behind it. Before she could explore, security booted her out, and shamelessly wandered around until she spotted the supermarket where Marlon worked. She spilled her weird tales to Marlon, who thought she was weaving a bunch of stores like a little kid. She deliberately caused a ruckus, hoping to catch the watchers, but the crowd were all seasoned actors and didn't even flinch. With the sunset kissing the hills, Marlon and Truman chatted over tea, and she asked him about his exotic travels. He only mentioned that he had been to Paradise Island, and Truman looked a little sad. She said she would be leaving soon and hoped Marlon could escape. That night she discovered her wife's infidelity. After a maze of hospital chaos, she realized the world was much more complicated than she thought, so she chose to fly under the radar. The next day, she chose to secretly fly away, but the crew wouldn't let her quit easily. Flights were booked solid for weeks, so she had to scrap that plan. Since she couldn't catch a flight, she thought she'd catch a bus to Chicago instead. Everyone on the bus acted cool as cucumber, but the driver was playing games. When the engine sputtered, everyone got the memo to hop off together. Facing fate's prank, she felt like a lost leaf in the wind and called her wife into the car after returning home. She made her glare at the rearview mirror, betting that a lady on a red bicycle holding flowers was bound to show up. And surprise, surprise, it happened just as she predicted. She squealed in excitement as those people circled around several blocks. Truman picked up on the signal and guessed his wife wanted to exit, but she wasn't about to allow that. Now, she had plans to take her wife on a flight, speeding out of the driveway, looping in the plaza while declaring she was off to catch a flight. She was intentionally trying to dazzle the watchers, and even though her wife was having a panic, Truman kept her cool and quickly found another route. Yet the crew had already set up roadblocks in her way and showed no signs of budging. So, she could only backtrack and keep circling around the diner. But the moment she stopped talking, she zoomed. To her surprise, the road was clear, leading to a bridge, and beneath that was her terrifying abyss of the sea. Her wife told her to turn back, but she clutched the steering wheel, closed her eyes, and floored the pedal. For safety, her wife had to drive them safely across the bridge after a nail-biting ride. They crossed the bridge without a hitch, but the crew claimed there was a wildfire up ahead, suddenly conjuring flames in the middle of the road. But Truman saw right through the trick. To stop her in her tracks, the crew faked an inferno, and the cops urged her to scram from the area. But the watchers accidentally revealed their identities, igniting her curiosity like a match to tinder. She dashed into the woods like the wind, the watchers chasing closely until they surrounded her. Just like that, her escaping dreams came to a halt. Back home, her wife recited commercial lines into the air. Truman finally cracked under pressure and argued with his wife just as she was about to spill the truth, when Marlon strolled in with a beer. His wife jumped into Marlon's arms like a savior, and they strolled at night, her feeling the world spun around her. Everyone seemed to be scheming, and Marlon became her best buddy on this paradise island. He had her utmost trust. Behind the scenes, the director was eavesdropping on their conversation, while the watchers kept a close eye on every move Marlon made. Finally, the conversation reached its peak, and Marlon patiently showed her how to lure Truman in step by step. Truman teared up, completely unaware that she was already ensnared by sweet words. Marlon planned a huge surprise, helping Truman find her long-lost father, orchestrated by the director for their reunion. This scene brought tears to the viewer's eyes. The director kept switching scenes and tunes to make it a highlight of Truman's show. As everyone was teary-eyed, only the misfortune goddess sulked in the corner. This was the director's cunning plan to keep Truman around. When asked about outsiders crashing the set, the director knew the mess it would cause but still brought the father back to the screen. The director figured the source of the trouble lay with the father, so bringing him back was only logical to tidy things up. The reason he cut the father scenes was because of Truman. At that time, she envisioned herself as an adventurous tire seller exploring the sea. So he made the father vanish in the waves, instilling a fear of water in Truman, ensuring she had to avoid the oceans forever. As for the explanation for the father's disappearance, the director brushed it off with poetic flair. In the live interaction, the goddess of misfortune called out the director's deceit and selfishness.